Alright, people, how are we doing? Inna alhamdulillahi wa kafah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulih al-Mustafa, wa ala ibadihi alladhina irtada, wa man bihudahum ihtada, wa bi athari ahli al-Madinah iqtafa, wa ba'd. Assalamu Allahi ala al-qawm, ahlan wa sahlan bikum, wa marhaban, one young lights, bienvenidos a todos, Bakhair Raghale, Khushamadid, people, and as always, Swagatam, Swagatam. I'm just going to check first what's going on with this mic. As I see here, I can't tell which, there's so many mics here, I can't seem to tell sometimes which is the, here is connected to a different one. Alright, now it's connected back to this. That's what we're talking about, people. That's what we're talking about. What is going down? Let me bring up the chats. Sir, kya hota ya horses haram hai? As soon as we're beginning, people, there's a question straight away. Alright, so now what is going down? Let me first just do a run of the mill, just check, bring up mi gente from Facebook. Before we do that, let me just show you people un momento. Make sure you've like, subscribe. We're going to be covering some interesting topics tonight. Look at that, I'm just fidgeting with my little gadget here. It's working, people. This is the latest mind trap. I'll be talking about this a little later on as well today. Boy, I just noticed there's a bit of a reflection in my hair there. So, alright, people. Let me bring it back into the studio mode. Bring up the Facebook chat here as well. Alright. What's your views on कहाँ ऐसे लोगों का नाम ले रहे हो? More like pendejo. Let me put that here. I will later on have a clip. What I'll be discussing today is, let me just, the blade is back. The blade is always here, people. Alright, now. So I'm talking about, right, so what we'll be taking a look at today, there's quite a few topics. Don't say that. Ya salam. I'm going to have to get my book. I did make a note. I don't want to forget some of the questions. But not to worry. What I'll do is I'll play the poetry. And whilst you guys enjoy the poetry, I'll grab my book. So, un momento. Let me just...
आँखों में रहा दिल में उतर कर नहीं देखा, कश्ती के मुसाफिर ने समंदर नहीं देखा। जिस दिन से चला हूँ मेरी मंजिल पे नजर है, आँखों ने कभी मील का पत्थर नहीं देखा।
वाह, this is Bashir Badr for you people.
ये भूल मुझे कोई विरासत में मिले हैं। तुमने मेरा कांटों भरा बिस्तर नहीं देखा।
हाय
महबूब का घर हो के बुजुर्गों की जमीन है, जो छोड़ दिया फिर उसे मुड़कर नहीं देखा।
वाह।
यारों की मोहब्बत का यकीन कर लिया मैंने, फूलों में छिपाया हुआ खंजर नहीं देखा।
हाय 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 हाय, उफ उफ।
पत्थर मुझे कहता है मेरा चाहने वाला, मैं मोम हूँ उसने मुझे छू कर नहीं देखा। आंखों में रहा दिल में उतर कर नहीं देखा। कश्ती के मुसाफिर ने समंदर नहीं देखा।
All right, so peoples, that was Bashir Badr, an epic poet. I just didn't want to forget there was so much to I'd been told to mention and talk about. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to get distracted with the gup shop as I do. And people will be like, where on earth did these questions go? So I'll be covering this comedian Hasan Minhaj, and he's had some controversy. You know, I'm here for controversy, people. I'll be talking a bit about that. There's my last podcast I did with Edip Yüksel, Professor Edip, and somebody who rejects hadith openly and has his own, a modern reformist translation of the Quran, of the entire Quran in print, and a manifesto for reformist Islam. In addition to that, several other books. He's written many more in Turkish, I believe, and he's involved also at a political level. And he's done a lot of work on the number 19 and its mystical kind of representation. Rather, he says it's the signature of the divine in both nature and scripture. And I had an entire podcast with him, so I'll kind of share my thoughts on that. There was... so we've had also another controversy upon controversy, people. So we've had, why is my hair shining so much? Yeah, okay, there's a bit of gel on it, but this is like giving a proper shine here. It's like it's wet. Right, so there's... people had asked me, can I speak about there's some controversy going on in Pakistan between some of the Barelvi ulama. There's Maulana Ashraf Jalali and his whole, the kind of can of worms, if you want to say, I don't know, Pandora's box is opened with the discussion of Fatima radiallahu anha, and so that's like, and there's been a back and forth between him and Maulana Saeed Asad. Debate, you know. Meanwhile, people, there's what else was there? Right, how can I forget? Danny Boy is in the house, people. Danny Boy. Danny Boy and his... he's got into an entertaining back and forth with none other than Professor Jack, Jonathan Brown, Johnny Boy and Danny Boy. They got into the fight, you know. This one not nice, you know. So it turned out, if I can, so I want to talk a bit about that. Definitely, it turned, if we've got into a bit of a bit of a fight, you know, fight. So what was going on? What is this about the mushkil and Yasir Qadi? It's a Royal Rumble, people. Whoa, that just froze there. So Yasir Qadi got thrown into the mix of it. You've got Jonathan Brown. You've got Danny Boy. He's kind of... And yeah, so there is also that Dilly Boy is hosting the interview. Somebody had asked a question about him, and so it's on his podcast, and we'll talk a bit about that. Not his podcast, but the thing later on. What else is there, people? And yeah, that's the main themes, and then there's obviously your valuable and invaluable questions that you present. Yes, people. So, las preguntas. Let's take a look. What are we waiting? Some Inaya had asked, "Did you watch Hakikat Jew?" And let me just bring up the Facebook people and apostate prophets debate. I haven't. I haven't actually. No. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mufti Saab, your favorite book? I don't know what that. So what's the masala? So there's going to be, so the masala is going to have to be, obviously, Danny Boy. There's a lot of masala, because I suppose that Hasan thing can come partly under the masala segment. Hasan Minhaj, although it's not that much masala really. Right, Mufti Saab, kya haal hai? Muy bien, muy bien. Yusuf G, Royal Rumble. Right, the Royal Rumble of they were the good old days, huh? WWF people. Royal Rumble. Ah! Ultimate Warrior. Somebody said, Mufti, are you still learning Spanish? Claro que sí, hermano. Claro que sí. I'm learning Spanish, of course. Right, what are you benching these days? These days it's just whatever I can do. Obviously, the gym is still out, people. There's no gym back yet, but I mean, I've got a little setup at home, but that's what I just do, yeah. Right, so Mufti, I'm starting to think liberalism is a lost cause. Could be. I'm not sure what is meant by liberalism. That's a more interesting question. What do people mean when they say liberalism? Because I think sometimes what I understand from it is not what it's not what I think some Americans understand. Some Americans, you see, their kind of liberal thing, I don't. It's more an impositionist thing. You see, I don't like, because what I don't like is this these kind of this uber woke culture where just because they have a view, nobody can disagree with them, and you can't ask questions, and you can't and it's like, oh, you're kind of cancelled out by this whole thing. It's not really for. I don't really agree with it. Mahin Mirza, you're doing it. Shukran for the super chat. You're doing it. Que lo que, mano? Alright. Muy bien. What's going down, people? What's your words on the demise of Mufti Naim? I spoke at length last week about Mufti Naim Sab, so do watch that. I dedicated probably about 20 to 30 minutes discussing just my memories and things like that, so do watch that. Right, so what a lolly. Ayo Enzo. Enzo. Did they kind of is that a euphemism for let's leave him. He's lucky we can't see him. You see, these people speak from behind behind these layers. Otherwise, the Eid sacrifice would come early. Right, so what's going down, people? What's going down? S. Miyagi. Oh, is that like Mr. Miyagi from the Karate Kid? Shukran, you're doing it for the super chat. Salam, I hope you're doing well. Recommend me any English books on Islamic sects. Islamic sex? Was he trying to write? Were you, Mr. Miyagi? Were you doing that? Were you trying to spell that with an X or with a CT? It's, this one, big difference. Big difference. For those people who say huruf don't matter, this is every harf matters. Harf lives matter here, people. So this, you could be in completely, for all you know, you're there saying, yes, I'd like to attend the sects, the sects therapy, the sects organization, and before you know it, you've joined a cult, and you're like, what? No. I thought this was going to be something cha-cha. Well, right, so this thing, right, sectarianism, I don't, maybe, right, actually, wait this, somebody told me, Sheikh Sajjad mentioned to me that there's a book written by an Orientalist, a German, I think he said, who's done, it's in many volumes, and it's a detailed history on all kinds of major figures and their beliefs and sects. And he said it was very, quite objective. I'm just trying to think what it was called now. I'll have to kind of find out, really. Or if you're in touch with Sheikh Sajjad, why don't you reach out to Sheikh Sajjad? His academy is... I'm gonna get it wrong. The website. Can somebody post the website for its sacred texts? Isn't it sacredtexts.com or .org or? But Sheikh Sajjad, I mean, you can hunt him out. Otherwise, I will find out and I'll get back to you with the name. Meanwhile, you can look up things like maybe there's translations of, I don't know, Ibn Hazm's Fisal or Fasl fil Milal wal Nihal or Fisal. There's Shahrastani's. A few people have done they've done translations, I believe. So maybe you can check that up. In a cult, you have more fun as a follower, but you make more money as a leader. I don't know if you have more fun as a follower, to be honest. Mufti Musa agree with liberalism is indeed killing culture. Right, now I agree. See, this is what I'm saying. I'm not sure what is meant by liberalism, because to me, liberalism means that it's the opposite of authoritarianism. So it's about freedom to the people. That's how I understand liberal values, that they are about having less control of whoever the ruling entity is over you. So governments, monarchs, these people have very diminished control over the public and the subjects or whatever they are. So to me, that's what liberalism is, and I'm fully in support of that. I don't support an oligarchy. I don't support, these kind of dictatorships. I don't support any of that. But then in some parts of the world, liberalism has seemed to have taken on this fascist culture. Like it's become the kind of bastard child. I mean that in the actual, not as a swear word. I mean it as the actual word. That it's become the bastard child of fascism. That it's fascism, which was there to impose things, it's got an illegitimate child, which is now the new kind of liberalism, which is like a Nazi version of liberalism. So they're just like the militant left, the far left. They're not like just being left and being about freedoms and liberties. They're about, if you disagree with us, we will be as harsh against you as the far right would be. So I this kind of uber woke culture. So I'm very much against that anyway. I don't like that. I find it this zillennial, this very snowflake kind of wishy-washy I don't know. I've never been impressed with that stuff anyway. So yeah, I mean, so in that sense, I'm against that. I'm all about, that there should be certain freedoms and certain values. I'm a bit old school. So yeah, I don't know if that's what people mean. Right. So Avald Cast, you're doing it with the super chat. Is that you though? What are your thoughts on secular humanism and being a secular Muslim? Sure, I mean, I'm not, once again, you see, when you say these things, I don't fully know if what you're conceptualizing and what I'm conceptualizing are the same thing. I don't know. When you say a secular Muslim, what does that mean? I don't know. Like, to me, that really, if you mean by it somebody who respects secular values, respects a secular society, allows freedom of all religions, allows freedom of speech, allows, to me, that is what by default a Muslim just ought to be. We don't need to call that a secular Muslim. That is by default the position of a Muslim. What's happened along the way is the institutionalization of Islam and the institutionalization of certain Muslims and clergy. So, yeah, I mean, that. So, if that's what you mean, I 100% agree with that. There's nothing wrong in. I mean, humanism is awesome. Humanism is about putting human beings at the center. I would say that is the primary message of Islam, even though it seems to have got drowned out by all these other things. Because when the Prophet came to Medina, that was his message. In essence, it was all about the humanness. When they asked him, what should we do? He said, that afshu salam, just say, establish peace, make it widespread, just say a nice word to people, afshu salam, wa at'imu ta'am, and feed people. You see, so it was about being kind and feeding people, giving people something that they actually need. So it wasn't about convert and get get brainwash and debate and force this rule or do that control. It was about humanism. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. Somebody said Sad Guru is taking over the media. I don't know who that is. Who is that? Mahdi says, who missed me? We always miss you, Mahdi. We always do. Right, so you're not politically conservative, though, are you, Mufti? Hell no. Hell no. I'm not conservative. Tory. Why would I be a Tory? I'm definitely with Labour in the UK, 100%. Right, so the first one to ever attack the Mudawwana was Sa'id ibn al-Haddad. Why did he attack as such? Yeah, Maryam Maud saying this. Yeah, I don't know, that could be. Let me just check if I've. Just one moment. There's a super chat. Super chats take precedence, of course. Maryam Maut. hang on. I don't know how you've got that surname, by the way, Maut. They're like, let's think of something really optimistic to call her. They're like, Maut? I think you need to be having some words with your parents. You think this is some kind of, is this some kind of a joke? Is that what? You're like, guess who's getting 0 gift cards from me on Mother's and Father's Day? Right, so love what you're doing, bro. All right, Ralston, you're doing it. Much love right back at you, man, and shukran for that right now. Oh, where did that question go of Maryam Moat? Maryam Moat, where art thou? But anyway, I remember the question anyway. So the question was um, about uh, Ibn al-Haddad, that he why did some of the Qarawiyyin scholars, these were from Qayrawan, some of these scholars, they critiqued the Mudawwana of Imam Malik, and they were the first people to critique it. Or he was particularly. Yeah, I mean, he did. But you know, his thing, I don't. It's not that he was against Imam Malik. He was obviously a Maliki, and he's a major Maliki, and he contributes to the Maliki madhab. In fact, his fatwa, I've quoted his fatwa for saying things like alcohol is not najas. I mean, it's haram, but it's not impure. And I've quoted Ibn al-Haddad, and I've quoted some of the other Qarawiyyin on that. So it's not that, you know, but he did have an issue. You're right. He had an issue with Sahnun, the kind of transmitter, and he used to hence call it, not Mudawwana, Mudawwada. He used to call it Mudawwada to Sahnun. You know, it's that the thing that's been kind of ridden with worms, and it's been kind of all eaten by worms and things. So that's like Mudawwada from that sense. So not Mudawwana, he used to call it Mudawwada to Sahnun. But that was his taking digs at Sahnun, not so much at. He didn't have an issue with Ibn al-Qasim or Imam Malik. That wasn't the concern. There was some beef, rivalry between him and Sahnun. And you have to remember, these people, there was this huge kind of overlap because Sahnun's son, Muhammad ibn Sahnun, is alive there. And there's this attempt to monopolize everything. That, you know, whenever there's institutionalization, there was these attempts to institutionalize the madhab, that we're going to go just through Sahnun, now that Sahnun has the Mudawwana. And the truth is, I agree with Ibn al-Haddad that why must we just go through the Mudawwana? The Iraqiyin, they went through the the Mukhtasar of Ibn Abd al-Hakam. You've got different, so the Malikiyya took different routes. And I feel that this is why Asbagh, from the who's also partly in Egypt and part of the Middle East as well, traveling, he was like the arch kind of rival to Sahnun. And he really didn't like Sahnun either. And Sahnun, don't get me wrong, Sahnun is an amazing person, but this was the beef these people had, you see. Sahnun would attack Asbagh and say, you know, who does this person think he is? And, you know, he comes here, thinks he's the representative of Malik and so on. And Asbagh would say about him that, you know, you talk to me about this Bedouin. He says about him, he says, هذا أعرابي بوال على عقبيه. You know, this guy's still got, you know, urine leaking down his ankles. Like, this guy just urinates all over himself. What, a Bedouin? You bringing a Bedouin to me to represent the school of Medina? But yeah, these were legends in their own right. I do like them both. I do personally, I probably like the thinking of Asbagh a bit more than Sahnun. But they are all legends within the madhab. Right, so fish is an aphrodisiac. You know, there's a question on that. Right, I got asked this question. Oh, right, but I'll come back to that actually. Somebody, Handsome Hound. Yeah, you know, super chats. I have to attend to the super chats. Log naraz ho jate hain. Right, so can God's attributes be used for the names of the other person, like God uses Malik for himself, and King of Yusuf, other, and Rahman, and is slavery really shirk? Right, so, right. Somebody says Mufti Harami. Where did you learn? आयो ईगल आयो ईगल आयो ईगल के बच्चे. Where did you learn? Where did you learn Aqidah? Where did you learn? Well, let me guess, huh? Let me just, un momento. Let me just, right, okay. So, where did you learn Aqidah? Where did you learn Aqidah? I don't learn Aqidah. So, oh, there's another super chat. Un momento. Mahin, you're doing it. Much love. Why do you think scholars like Abdul Hakim Murad are closer to modernism in private, but pander to subcontinental cults like Brelvism, Khatm Nubuwwat, fanaticism, and exist in fluffy world of Ottomanism in public lives? Wow, that is such a hard-hitting question. You know what, that I have to answer that. I'm just checking here. What's this? Have I missed another? No, I thought I'd missed another super chat. Handsome Hound, just coming to your question. Right, so God's attributes, they can be used for people. There's nothing wrong in using names like Kareem, Rahim. These kind of names are not, there's nothing wrong with that. The only name that is exclusive to Allah, really speaking, is Allah. Okay, now some people say Rahman as well. Okay, fair enough. I mean, but I personally, okay, because there's a culture, we will, let that one as well in. Because Allah says, قُلِ ادْعُوا اللَّهَ أَوْ ادْعُوا الرَّحْمَنَ أَيًّمَّا تَدْعُوا فَلَهُ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. Whether you call unto Allah or you call unto Rahman, whomsoever you call, that Allah has the beautiful names belong to him. You see, this people have assumed that Rahman was exclusively Allah's name, and nobody had heard of this term, Rahman, before Islam came about with it. And that's not true. And they base this on, I think some people base it on some hadith, and it's a misunderstanding, or it's an ahistoric reading of the hadith. Like they say that some of the Quraysh mocked Rahman. They said, Man Rahman, who's this Rahman? La na'rifu or la na'lamu illa Rahman al-Yamama. This isn't Yamama as in Yamama. Yamama. They're like, huh? What? Yamama. Nay. There's a place called Yamama. Right? So there was a person there who claimed as well to be, something divine. And but this isn't about that. Rahman existed in southern Arabia, and Rahman was a name by which people would call God, especially in the southern kingdom, the Aksumite Arab kingdoms. So you have to remember, you see, this is why history is so important. The Ansar, Khazraj and Aus, who were the predominant inhabitants of Medina, they were themselves a migrant community. See, people forget this, they don't know this. This is one of the reasons they were so accommodating to migration as well, to the Hijrah, because they themselves were a migrant community. That generations before, their ancestors had actually migrated from southern Arabia, which would be today the modern-day Yemen region. And that was a powerful kingdom that was down south, that was for over 1,000 years. A huge, rich legacy of, where you've got the Saba, the Sheba kingdoms, and you've got like Babu Marib, and you've got all these other, but they span predominantly Christian, but there was some rule of Jewish kings in between as well. But this kingdom, once again, wealthy, they've got their established, their culture was dominant as well. And it was their mode of writing that was actually dominant across Arabia.
So, and they did not write Arabic how we, like how you're reading this Arabic today. This is like Jazm script. This actually came from the Middle East. It was imported into Mecca. It was not the writing that was common. They had a different writing, which the Arabs used to call musnad. Now it was like hieroglyphics almost, like quasi hieroglyphics, like shapes and things like that. So the Ansar migrate to Medina, and with them they take, say, certain practices, and Rahman would have been a term they were familiar with for God. And it's interesting that I feel that this resonates with them. Or does it emerge more so with them? Or was it there before? It may have been there before, but it definitely resonated with them. Another interesting thing is ablution, wudu. Now, ablution was something the southern Arabian kingdoms would do, maybe slightly differently, but they would do ablution because of that was part of their culture. So this once again is implemented in Medina, where you have the Ansar, who are a migrant community, their grandfathers were, and they had a culture of ablution, of wudu. So it's interesting. This is how it resonates, the message does. Yeah, so I hope that helps. Whoa, let me deal with some of these. Yo, Laythi, tell us your sanadini. Oh my God, it's Mahad. Remember the guy from the cradle whose parents named him after the cradle. They go, you know what? Let's aim real high for this one in life. What name? What name shall we give him? Cradle. I am Mansa. Right, so Mufti, don't you feel the Quran is overinterpreted? Could be, and I'll come back to that. Let me just come to these super chats that have been asked. Is there an authentic description of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? I would feel that there's a we could kind of induce an overall understanding of what his description was like. It may not be accurate like 100%, but I feel it would be very similar to the Prophet. So, from multiple, but I don't think one description was necessarily accurate per se. But I think overall, the variety of narrations we have and descriptions, like we know he was an Arab, we know that, people have described his, so for example, his skin tone, people have described was kind of like wheat-like, which makes sense actually with the Arabs of that time. Now, I know there was a huge discussion where people were trying to say Arabs were necessarily dark-skinned. I don't think they actually were, in my understanding. Allahu A'lam. Not that this matters so much. I don't think people should become fixated on that. But I just don't feel that was the reality. Just looking at Arabs as a whole. They are you see, the Arab gene kind of originates from Asia Minor, and it's not the kind of haplogroup that kind of descends into the Semites and breaks off, and the people from there, you get an idea this is how they are. And then you have other descriptions of the Prophet, like he wasn't hairy, which is kind of reflects that Arab understanding. They're not generally, I mean, you wouldn't understand them to be like a hairy, like today you've got desi people, like Pakistanis are just it's like acha. They're pouring they're just like, here's a bucket of hair. I watched this meme where somebody said, they've got these two glasses, and it said like brown desi people, and it said like desi guys, and it said here, and it was on the head was just a tiny amount. Anyway, let's not get distracted. So I think there is some description of the Prophet that would, within bounds, kind of reflect a reality. Yeah, so the fact that they described him as like average height, now that may be a bit tricky, because average to whom? But I would have assumed like an average. I mean, I don't know. You see, it's weird because the problem is these topics are so sensitive. If you say something, people kind of freak out. So, but I think the description is kind of good. Like, we know that he was very healthy. I mean, not just a lifestyle, but even when he passed away, he was described as having a flat stomach. He never had a kind of gut ever. They say that his shoulders were reasonably broad. And this kind of fits his character as well, you know, for a leader. Because a person's body and his kind of persona and his representation reflects sometimes their kind of personality and other abstract qualities. Cool. Let's move on to the other question. Mahin Mirza's. That was a very interesting question. Before it disappears, Fergus, shukran for the, I was about to say Snapchat, super chat. Salam Mufti, what is the view on the Hebrew names of God, e.g. Yahweh and Yah, Elohim? Yeah, these are the ones I'm really just familiar with. I'm not too familiar with. I haven't studied Hebrew. Maybe at some point in life, if I get really bored, or if if I go on converting some Israelites, or the female ones at least. If I go on a mission like that, then I guess. But no, I don't really know Hebrew. So, but these ones, you know, like Elohim, Yahweh, Yah. These are the popular Adonai they use, which they say is from Adon. What else? So those are the ones coming to me right now. But yeah, Mufti, did Caliph Abdul Malik invent Jerusalem as the third holy site of Islam during his conflict with Abdullah ibn Zubayr? That is a very good question by Sam E. I do feel that Abdul Malik ibn Marwan kind of, yeah, in his time, this whole thing about Jerusalem, I feel that most, if not probably all, if not more or less all, maybe not every single thing, but by and large, for the most part, the genre of Jerusalem, in my understanding, is fabricated. There was never anything so special about Jerusalem, except that Muslims kind of honored it out of I feel the Prophet honored it out of the love that that there were former prophets associated with it through the Judeo tradition. And I feel that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam honored it out of love for that. But it wasn't, so that kind of stuff, okay, fair enough, that's admissible. But I don't feel in and of itself, it was so, the way it's made out later on, you have so many narrations about Jerusalem, and Jerusalem is this very holy place, and it then becomes the third of the Thalith al-Haramain. Right, this squaring a triangle goes on. Haramain means two, and Thalith means the third of the two. Right, so, but yeah, it definitely, the Dome of the Rock was created by Abdul Malik ibn Marwan in his time. And I feel that this hadith, like, don't travel except to the three were kind of probably fabricated in his time. That's what I feel. I'm not 100% sure about that, but that's where I would lean towards that. Yeah, it seems like that, because Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, he, and don't get me wrong, I actually think he did huge, great things as well. He really forges out an identity for Muslims. So we really owe a huge percentage of our identity understanding to people like Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, who kind of forge out this, like it's not that it didn't exist, but they forge it out. You see, like it's like people might misunderstand. They might think, I mean, he entirely makes it up. He doesn't entirely make it up. He doesn't make up Islam, contrary to what some Orientalists say. But he kind of creates this identitarian aspect to it. So prior to him, it seems that Muslims are kind of just very naturally Muslim. So they are Muslim, but they're not so conscientious about this identity thing. The way he, or maybe there's some aspects they are conscientious of, but the way it becomes that we are Muslim, we do this, we call ourselves Muslims, we have this, we will only, like, so for example, the state language becomes Arabic. It wasn't even even people like Muawiyah radiallahu an, most of, the documentation, the coins, these kind of things, they used Greek and Persian things. They didn't use Arabic. They obviously spoke Arabic, but the administrative language was still not Arabic. And they didn't feel that it needed to be. There was this kind of like, it doesn't really matter. It's not, like they weren't, like they felt it's okay, it's fluid. Like we're just Muslim. But we don't need to kind of have this, we don't need to forge out an identity of being a separate people. And definitely Abdul Malik kind of introduces that. He introduces the language, he changes the coins. First in Muawiyah's time, if you see, there's even some of the kind of Persian or Greek god symbols and things are still on the coins. They don't even change that. But he changes it to La ilaha illallah. So Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, he makes this a symbol. He realizes that in order to have an identity, we, unlike the Byzantines and the Sassanids, we can't have pictures. So what he does is he realizes we can have script. So this creation of Arabic calligraphy really is indebted to people like Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, who then he kind of bolsters this aspect that instead of the way the Christians are using pictures and these Sassanids and these people were using icons, we're going to use calligraphy and words. So he has on the coin La ilaha illallah put there. And you see, an Arabic, he makes a point, we will write in Arabic now. Like all the administration, if the scribes don't write in Arabic for us, get rid of them. We're going to get Arab scribes. So this thing is a huge push by Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. And I don't think it's a bad thing. But it definitely happens in his time. So, we can't pretend it didn't happen. But yeah, but at the same time, I don't think it's like something evil he did. He was just trying to make Muslims become an identity. And it's like I give you an example. This is a bad example, but it's still an approximation. It's like nation states today. How do you create identities? Like, let's say Pakistan. How today Pakistani is an identity. 100 years ago, this didn't even exist. The concept didn't even exist. Today, Pakistan has an understanding with it. Oh, a certain food is associated, a language is associated, a certain kind of, nation myths are associated. So this is what you do. You see, with nation states, you have to create these myths. And a myth doesn't have to be entirely false, but it's the way you piece it together to make it coherent. It maybe wasn't as coherent as you make it. and then you present it and constantly present it and until everybody accepts it. So this is how you forge identities. It doesn't mean that it's a lie, but it's just maybe not as coherent as the person presents. Right, Fawz Mutabi asks, Mufti, why is Al-Muwatta disregarded by Salafis? That's a very good question. I feel that the Salafis, because I think deep down the Salafis struggle with Imam Malik. Because Imam Malik, you see, on one hand, he is an absolute don of hadith. You cannot question Imam Malik when it comes to hadith. But on the other hand, he's somebody who equally rejects hadith when it goes against certain practices. So they struggle with this because Imam Malik in his Muwatta, he says, هذا الحديث ليس عليه العمل ببلدنا. We won't act upon this hadith. He brings the hadith and then says we won't act on it. Done. This, that कहाँ पैदा हैं ऐसे पारंगंदा तबा लोग अफसोस तुमको मीर से सोहबत नहीं रही. Afsos, you guys have forgotten, or you haven't had the good fortune of keeping company with Mir. That's what it's like. Right, coming back to that question of Mahin, Mahin asked about Abdul Hakim Murad. Why is it in public, in private he has a certain perspective and in public he has something else? Now, I don't, you see, I can comment generally speaking, and you can, which would include presumably Sheikh Abdul Hakim Murad, but it would be speaking about the whole kind of category of people, because I don't even though I do know Sheikh Abdul Hakim Murad, but I don't know him that closely. Like, we don't, last time I spoke to him was many years ago when I visited him, but that, since then I haven't really been in touch. I'm not up to date with what he does. I do respect what he's established. I'm very impressed by his intelligence and his articulation and expression and his knowledge. I mean, his insights are amazing. But it is true that I think many people would feel that the scholars live a double life. There's a duplicity of the clergy, of their lives and their views. They seem to have something else behind closed doors, and they seem to be something else in front of the public. This is the very reason why I went in, and I went in deep against Sheikh Yasir Qadi. And by the way, I did watch a review on my clip on Yasir Qadi by David Wood and Anthony Rogers, is it? Right, so they had this whole 2-3 hours. Wow, just a huge part, just a commentary on my and obviously they were really going at him as well, but they were kind of showing my clip of me going at him. But this reason why I went for Yasir Qadi as well is because of things like this. You see, I don't appreciate this duplicity, but then you see, it's not just the duplicity, it's when they will be on that angle of duplicity, they will gun for you, they will kind of come for you, they will backstab, they will kind of be treacherous, they will speak nonsense to people, they will kind of act all, very holier than thou. And like Sheikh Yasir Qadi has done on several occasions. So this is why I don't appreciate it. So when he has this cock up, obviously, what does he want? Does he want a box of mithai? Ye lo, laddu khao, laddu. Abe laddu. Is that what you're expecting? Of course not. You know, if you're gonna pretend to be this, like, oh, I'm this authority and act, and this is the problem. These guys have created this refutation culture. They are, you know, this is their Frankenstein project. So, you know, so of course I'm gonna be a party to that. You can't hate on me for doing that. That's just totally utterly unacceptable. So yeah, so I mean, this thing of these scholars, why are they different? I actually feel, honestly, there's the only reason for that, truthfully speaking, is their insecurities or their fears. They're just frightened. They don't have the cojones to just speak what they truly feel, because they feel that if they do truthfully speak, they will become disowned. People will boycott them. People will. You see, you have to remember, almost all of these people. There's very few people that are different. I mean, very few. I mean, ek apun ko chhod ke, you know, like, there's very few people who have ever began from a bottom-up approach. Very few. And, you know, it's seldom that somebody that has come into, you know, it's like right now there's this Bollywood thing going on about this kind of like a Me Too kind of thing, and this whole thing about nepotism is going on right now in Bollywood. That outsiders they're never allowed into an industry, or they have to really struggle. You see, that kind of an aspect, that kind of an understanding is the same with any kind of celebrity atmosphere. And the religious circles are no different. They are no different. These people that have come in, very few have ever made it on their own back. They have been pure outsiders. Very few. Most of them were always given platforms by others. They, for example, were given a platform by an entire genre of a denomination, who then provided that. So, for example, because Mahin asked about Sheikh Abdul Hakim Murad. So he's been given this platform, obviously, and I do admire him and love him, but I'm just being objective here, because obviously he's a professor, he's a convert, he's white, he's very articulate, and then he speaks because he kind of speaks, he's been given this kind of voice piece, or he's been made this voice piece of Sufism. Now, the Sufi genre or the Sufi denomination is huge. Millions and millions of followers. But they've got their different orders, but that's something, you see, they will sit you on that wave, and the wave will carry you out. You're not making it because of your content. You're not making it because of necessarily you have amazing opinions. I mean, they might have amazing opinions, but they're not making it because of that. They're just making it because they just being lifted and being placed on top of a hill. They didn't climb the hill. I'm not saying everyone, but most of them seldom do. They've just given these privileges because they happen. You see, what happens is because of they come from a prestigious background, a lot of doors open up for them. So, for example, let's say great Sufi sheikhs will meet them, but they won't meet other people. So because of this, they will be given a platform, they will be given recognition, they will be allowed to speak. Now, don't get me wrong, it's, you know, it's all whatever people get, you know, whatever, it's luck, I guess, if we can call it that. But then the problem with this, the issue with this, is if you now start talking against the current of that wave, you risk drowning. Because that is because that is what is carrying you. You are only afloat because of that wave. So, like, let's say, because Mahin asked about Sheikh Abdul Hakim Murad, he will speak about Imam Ghazali because the Sufis love Imam Ghazali. He will speak about, he will anti-Wahhabi rhetoric because they love him for that. But being like, I don't know, coming up with certain ideas that may be critiquing what these crowds want, or maybe counterculture to these crowds, I doubt they will ever say that in public. So that is the problem, you see. This is why my advice to people who are coming into this field is that, look, do not try, I would say that try to rise on the back of your own content, of your own opinions, your own thoughts. That way, if people listen to you, if you've got talent, people will listen to you, but they will listen to you based on what you are delivering. So you can't really go wrong. You know, people can't all of a sudden say, oh, you've changed. Or they can't, if you change your opinion someday, people won't just drop you. They will understand you anyway. So yeah. Let's move on to the next question. Rock Black, you're doing it with the super chat right now. It says, you know, lying is haram. Did you ever try DMT? Why should this not be haram, but as cocaine, in your opinion? Yeah, I've spoken about DMT and things like this previously. Look, my personal life, what are you gonna do by knowing about my personal life? You can't handle my personal life. I can't handle my personal But I am an advocate of what I call entheogens. Not hallucinogens, I call them entheogens, of these things that connect you with God, that expand your they are a portal to understanding consciousness. To some people they use the word spirituality. I don't really use that word, but yeah, so that kind of understanding. It's nothing like cocaine, DMT. It's nothing like cocaine. That's a ridiculous example. I mean, it is not a stimulus like that. It doesn't work. These are psychoactive. If you want to call them drugs, okay, fine. But this is something completely different that are found in nature. They are natural. They are not. And this is something that certain people have had as part of their tradition for thousands of years, considered sacred. They weren't to many civilizations. This is not about getting a buzz to go partying, or, you know, to be able to dance all night because, you know, you just want cocaine because you... And the problems with things like cocaine is, okay, it's not, even though it does have a addictive nature, but it's not addictive in the sense that heroin is, but it's more about the psychological dependency that it creates. In addition to that, there have been several deaths through cocaine overdoses, whereas that's never happened with DMT. It's entirely a separate... I mean, it's like apples and oranges. These are separate things. You can't really compare them. Cocaine is about... It gives a person a hype. Okay, it's basically dopamine, isn't it? That's why they call it dope. It's not dopamine, but it resembles that, and therefore is picked up by the dopamine, the dopaminergic kind of pathways and the receptors in the brain. So it's like it puts your brain on fire. So your brain's on fire. It's like, oh, and so you feel like you're above this world. You're Superman. You can do anything. Your confidence rockets. Your abilities, your strength, because your brain is on fire with dopamine. Now, that will obviously subset. It will drown eventually, like once it kind of subsides, and then you'll feel like crap. And the problem is then, in order to feel good again, sometimes what happens is this: you need to take these things just to feel a sense of I'm okay. Like you start kind of dropping. You don't just go back to where you were. The ground changes. So that's a horrible thing. I would feel cocaine is haram. It's harmful. I wouldn't advocate these things. Whereas DMT and things like this are more about consciousness. It's about opening pathways. It's about discovering a world. It's not about parties. It's nothing. There's nothing fun about DMT. It's not a fun thing. I wouldn't assume these things are fun. These things are about for people who are serious about understanding other dimensions. So it's not. So I don't see the similarity between them. You know, it's like saying, well, cocaine and go eating healthy food. I don't see the similarity. Okay, right. Right. But these things, by the way, they are an issue of legality. I'm not saying that they ain't. So where they are legal, where a person can pursue them, and also under guidance of how to do them, that's obvious. You know, with people who are trained, with shamans, with people like that. You see, it's like anything. It's like if a person wanted to eat, I don't know, they wanted caffeine or they wanted ibuprofen. Like if you just take, I don't know, a person just takes a box of ibuprofen and eats it. Like that's not how to take ibuprofen. Do you understand? So it's the same thing with anything. So people might say, yes, you know, these things could have like an overwhelming dangerous effect. If anything could, if you're not doing it considerately and how it ought to be done under guidance. That's the same with paracetamol, aspirin. You know, aspirin would kill you. So if you just, I'm going to take aspirin, I know, whereas aspirin is actually good for you. But if you just took a whole box, it would kill you. So, yeah. Right, so what's going on? Brada, make a tutorial on your beard. I don't know what that means. What do you mean make a tutorial on your beard? So, and the question about is lying haram? I don't believe lying is haram, by the way. But lying, harming people is haram. It's a difference, you see, because lying could just be a lie. Like somebody could just lie for a joke. They could just lie about, like I could just make a statement like, you guys can't see this mic right here. This microphone is white. But I could say, oh, this microphone is black. I lied. It didn't make a difference to anybody's lives. That kind of lying is not haram. That's just stating something that isn't so. It becomes haram where there's either, where there is harm, or you are defrauding someone, or you are conning someone. That action is haram. Not stating something which correlates or doesn't correlate to reality. Oh, did I miss another? Right, boy, how do I start studying fiqh and hadith? Right, well, definitely you need to start studying fiqh and hadith. You can actually go to my YouTube channel. I've got some basic fiqh courses, the Ashmawiyya in 6 lectures. I've got the Foundations of Islam in 20 lectures, audio lectures. Hadith, I've got some books on hadith studies. You can study that as well. Somebody said, have you visited your madrasa again? I have visited my madrasa again. All right, so I visited them a couple of years ago. No, I haven't cut myself off from them like that. It's not like that. But obviously, I live in a different continent. What if someone is betting money on the color of your mic unknowingly? Well, that's, you know, once again, if they have asked me for that and I'm misleading them, then it comes back to the act of misleading. Why are neo-traditionalist stalwarts AHM? Who's AHM? Abdul Hakim Murad. Farooq Abdullah touchy about past associations with Murabitin. I expect 100% honesty from world, but conversations remain hidden. Yeah, I think they are a bit embarrassed with the Murabitin. You see, this is another reason why some of these people got the platforms they did. They penetrated a movement. They were part of a movement that had very strong kind of roots in some ways or another. Very powerful people, very wealthy people. You know, Abdul Qadir as-Sufi. I mean, I respect Abdul Qadir as-Sufi for, you know, he did, you know, he's a very powerful, influential person, but you have to remember, Hamza Yusuf had connections with him. Abdul Hakim Murad had connections with him. You know, Abdullah, Farooq, Omar Abdullah Farooq had connections with him. He kind of launched a lot of these people, to some extent, not entirely, but I mean to some extent, some more than others, definitely. So, and these people were very powerful, very rich, very they came from very kind of the upper echelons of society. They weren't your kind of working class. They weren't even middle class. These were elite kind of people who rub shoulders with millionaires on a daily basis. It's not, and it's amazing that they embraced Islam and they had a huge, profound impact on many people. But it comes back to that, you see, this thing of what you see today is somebody giving a speech, but what got this person there, you don't see that. And it definitely plays a role. But these people are they don't want any, today, because they've broken off, they don't want anything going back to, I guess, that. But I appreciate the super chat, Mahin. Again, you're doing it. Mahin's doing it. I feel like I have to get Mahin a cup of coffee now. You're doing it, Mahin. Right, so Capo Khan says, send me some love. Yeah, lo yaar. Jio meri jaan, jio. Huh? That's koi. What's the koi mir sa girafta dil tere samne ki misal tha. Hi. You know, there's a poem, right, that Mir says. He says, कहीं गौर नहीं किया तूने ये लोग कैसे उजड़े थे. That you never paid attention. How did these people perish? Did you ever ponder over that? कोई मीर सा गिरफ्ता दिल. Mir, somebody with the likes of Mir, girafta dil, whose heart was seized. Tere samne ki misal tha. Wow, you gotta love Mir Taqi Mir, man. He's one of my favorites, honestly. Legend. Mir ji. Inaya says, where's my coffee invite? Of course. Yeah, Inayat bhi hum karenge. There you go. Right, so Mufti, what are the pros and cons of being Salafi? You see, this is the problem. Then there is the scandal, the scandal. So gotta live these undercover lives, huh? Mufti, do you know Khawla bint al-Azwar? Who? Khawla bint al-Azwar. I don't know who Khawla bint al-Azwar. Is that a classical person? Is it a contemporary person? Sounds very classical. No idea. You should do some poetry sessions with Mirza Ghulam. I don't know who Mirza Ghulam is. Mufti, Wagwan. So what's your plan? Wagwan. Maji, Wagwan. When lockdown is lifted. Right, yeah. When lockdown is lifted. Mufti, would you ever do a second marriage? Second, third, fourth, 164th? What number am I on now? What's life if not lived, people? Huh? And I get assassinated whilst on a live. People get very touchy about these topics. Marriage and these kind of things. And some people, there was a question. Let me come to a question. Where did I put it? Right. Let me see. Where did it go? Was this it? Right, this was it, people. That somebody had asked, this was Ibn Ibn, I don't know what her name is. Anyway, Assalamu alaikum. I'm a single woman and I do not want to get married. My wish is that I want a cartoon male character from Dragon Ball. as my husband in Jannah. Will Allah grant me this in Jannah? And then I had to actually find, that I had to actually I had to find who these people were. I was like, what is Dragon Ball Z? That's the characters, people. That's the characters she wants. Bloody hell. Beasts. Right, so this one, can a woman get a Dragon Ball Z character in the afterlife? Afterlife. ये तो हम इस दुनिया में दे देंगे. Who's got a Dragon Ball Z costume, people? Anyone? You see, I'm sure you can get that just on shrooms. You don't need to die to get that. No, look, the afterlife, what your hearts desire, people. You can have anything you want, okay? That Allah says, فِيهِ مَا تَشْتَهِ الْأَنفُسِ. Whatever the selves desire is this. But that's, so from the literal understanding, you see, there's two approaches to the afterlife in taking how do we view the afterlife in the Kitab wa Sunnah. There's the very literalist understanding, the textualist understanding, and then there's the symbolic understanding. The textualist, literalist understanding is that there will be this very physicality, this kind of corporeal, sort of this kind of like bodily understanding to it, very much like we have here in this world. And we will be in gardens and oases, and there will be just women and women for men, and I suppose there'll be men and men for women. They'll be chilling as well, and there will be kind of just food, and it'll just be a kind of like a tropical paradise. So there's that understanding, and in that understanding you can have whatever you want, okay? So you can have these things, and scholars have discussed these things, believe it or not. So the Hanafi scholar Ibn Nujaym, in his book, he discusses that, look, if he says, if somebody says that, look, I struggle with because presumably the person asking was struggling with homosexuality. So he says that, look, but in Jannah, I want homosexuality. So what will I get? So he responds to this by saying, well, if that's what you want, I mean, he gives different opinions. Says, well, one says fine, one says no, that Allah will remove this desire there, so you won't be able to desire it. And the middle way, you gotta love the middle way. The middle way was basically a post-op. Ibn Nujaym. He's doing it. Ibn Nujaym with the post-ops. Right, so he basically said you can have a she-male, but a post-op she-male. So it's, what it is the upper body would be like male. Is that what did he say? The upper body was male? Yeah, because it wouldn't make sense if that would defeat his purpose of saying that. And the lower body, however, would be of a female. So if you're looking at her legs upwards, you're like, well, definitely, I've scored. Then he turns around and he's got like a big beard and he's Qari Saab. He says, "Aa jao, gale lag jao yaar." He says, "Gale lag jao, dono bhai gale lag jayenge, aa jao." But that was how Ibn Nujaym, from centuries ago in his book explains that. Right, so that's the but yeah, you could have from that the other understanding is a more symbolic. The afterlife is more about consciousness. I'm probably more inclined to that. I feel that the afterlife is more about the ruh, the consciousness. It's not about this physicality, but these approximations were just given in the Quran. The imagery was really symbolic, but it was just given to kind of help people. So in that Alright, people, am I back? No? Yes, no, yes, no. Just give me one moment. I don't know why that happened. That has never really happened to me before on Facebook. Disappointment. Let me... For some reason, it just kind of just crashed on me. Just un momento. I'm just pressing live again on here. Wow. Right, so... Let's see this. Hello, 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 hello. All right, I take it. Yep, it seems to have connected. Awesome. All right, so all right, now I should be live. All right, guys, can you... All right, people, what's this? All right, let me see. I'm back. Let's see, is that connected? Nope. I don't know if that's... Alright, it's back. I see it. Alright, for some reason, I don't know. See, that must have been the power of the dark side, people. They must have hacked my... See, this is what happens. This is the problem. When... See, you got to deal with... They must have hacked me, people. I do apologize for that. For that interlude there. I am back, people. Alive and kicking. Right, so... I tell you what. You know what? Let's not get distracted. Let's... Whilst people... I'll tell you what. I'll let people reconnect quickly there. I can see the chat moving again. Sir, I am a YouTuber. Can I have an interview with you on StreamYard? Right, from Italy. Give me 20 minutes. Sure. You know what? Message me on Instagram. And we'll try and set that up. Cool? Right. Welcome back, player. Abdul Karim, much love and appreciate the super chat. You're doing it. You're doing it. Right, so, you know what? Whoa. Got distracted there. See, it broke my flow. So, let me just see that the Facebook chat is back now. See, it's a good thing I checked, actually. Yep, it's back now. Please read question on super chat above. It says, welcome back, player. There is no question above. So, sorry. That's as far back as this goes. So, if you post... His wife probably turned off the Wi-Fi for the polygamy answer. You know, that could be the case. Well, let's see. So, Jinn attacked you. Right, let's move on to some other questions, people. Right, get Ruqya done on your laptop. Too many super chats. Facebook letting you down. Nah, Facebook gente are awesome as well. Right, guys, you know what? Let me show you this clip. So this has caused a bit of a stir. If I just take a look where it is. I believe this is it.
These are the things that I'm criticizing the compassionate imams.
I got a lot of shit from that video, specifically from the Muslim community. They loved every single point that I made, but they said, why did you have to go after making dua? Come on, man. How many Muslim fundraisers have you and I gone to where we pray for the community? We gotta make dua. We cannot just make dua. You know how the community gets sometimes. If you kind of, you push back on some of those Sunday school rules, they'll push back on you. So for everybody watching, I just want you guys to know, I'm gonna kick this thing off with the dua, with the prayer.
So this is the controversy.
Fine, either one of us. Yeah, no, I'll lead it, and then the white people, you guys can pray too. So, Brandon, Cody, Cole, you guys just participate.
So this got him quite a bit of slack on Muslim Twitter.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let's do a short one. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Oh Allah, please unite us all in the cause for justice. Oh Allah, please protect Brother Keith Ellison. He is fighting the good fight, and this is a fight for justice. Ya Allah, please protect us from plaque, gum disease, and gingivitis. Oh Allah, you know how when you're on FaceTime audio, and then it drops and it switches you to LTE, but then LTE also sucks. Ya Allah, please make LTE strong and better. You know how when you bite into an olive and there's still a pit in it, Allah. Allah, please protect us from the pit. Ya Allah, please bring back limited edition wasabi Doritos. They were really good. Allah, please. Ya Allah, please protect us from white women in yoga pants. Astaghfirullah, please. Ya Allah, please.
We gotta say amen. I mean,
to the fullest extent possible. Ameen.
Khatib. You know.
So this is what got him a lot of slack. And there was this huge thing about we should ban. I'm going to come to the super chats in just a moment. Yeah, so we should cancel Hasan Minhaj because of this. He's mocking the concept of dua. He's mocking Islam. How can he call? And he says, just after that, he says to the person, I think I got everything, or should I ask the man upstairs for anything else? So they're saying, oh my God, how could he say the man upstairs? Oh my God. And how could he make this dua? White women in yoga pants. Huh? Was he asking for? Was he protecting from? Was he protecting from? Like saying, they shouldn't be. Tawbah, tawbah, tawbah. Cancel him. So people, all this, this cancel culture is so annoying. It's just these, this is what I was talking about earlier on, these kind of fascist, militant left, this kind of ultra left, the far left. Yeah, I don't really support this kind of cancellation culture. It's the new takfir, isn't it? Instead of saying kafir, we say cancel them. Let's do a campaign cancelling them. This is the problem. You give people a bit of power, they can't handle it. Let's cancel them. I got nothing else. I mean, the guy's just having a joke, for God's sake. Haven't you got a sense of humor? You're like, he can't make a joke about dua. Why? Is it your dad's department? Why can't he? If he's making a joke, fair enough. That's up to him. I mean, fair enough. His joke may be in bad taste, but many people's jokes are in bad taste. What's the big deal? Why are you getting so worked up about it? At the end of the day, how can you call the God the man upstairs? Have you ever read what the Salafis call him? The books that they're promoting. And by the way, the one upstairs, in Urdu culture, this is so common. Uparwala. They say all the time. They used to say this, that ask the one upstairs. I mean, it's okay, fair enough, if he said the man upstairs, and they're saying man, the big man or whatever he said upstairs. Look, it's a joke. It's not like this is how he's worshipping God. Just chill out. Calm down, people. Calm down. Honestly, I feel, do you know what I feel? I feel that people don't have a cause to fight for in their lives. They don't have, but they have an urge to want to fight for something. They've got an itch, but they don't know where the itch is. This is the problem. So they're if anything happens, they just unleash a rage at that thing. Why? Huh? The program's moved from 9 to 9:30. What? It's just this Karen kind of, that Carinthians. That culture, isn't it? This let's complain about everything. Let's just become so I am totally, look, I'm not saying whether I find those jokes that funny. I probably don't. But my sense of humor is definitely, you'd flip out at my sense of humor. It's way too twisted. But I feel that, look, it's this freedom. People can make a joke. It's up to them. And they can make a joke, and they can make a joke about dua. They can make a joke about, many of our Salaf used to crack so many jokes. And they would sometimes crack jokes using certain verses of the Quran. They would do this. Now, I understand other people don't appreciate it, but you should see the, Ibn Abi Shayba, not the Hafid, the other, he's also in Hadith, the Quran specialist, his brother. The jokes he used to crack, the sarcasm using the Quran, and people did condemn him, but is he not in the Hadith literature, and is he not like so big? And yeah, so people need to just chill out a little. That's my point, yeah. Yeah, like upar wala jab bhi deta hai, chappar phad ke deta hai. That this is like, I feel, yeah. Right, coming back to some of those super chats. Right, there was a question by Foz Mutabi. Why do wizards say when doing don't injectopantronium? I don't know what that is, man. In your mind trap with Dr. Shehzad, I couldn't figure out how many ayahs are different. Is there a known number? I don't know if there's a known number. You see, just to be clear, what is my understanding on the nature of the Quran? Some people haven't understood it. I have said very clearly that my understanding is that the Quran was dynamic. Okay. Like the way Ahl Sunnah had traditionally said that the actual Quran was the meaning, the essence, which was with God. The Arabic Quran is something that is to do with this world. It's not. So they say that what Allah revealed, it manifested in, and then the Ahl Sunnah disagree. Some say it manifested within the Prophet's mind, and he expressed it. In Arabic, some say it manifested in the mind of Jibreel, this spirit that then manifests it to the Prophet, so the Prophet hears it, or both. But the asal, which was with Allah, which is the word of God, is a meaning. It's not actually in language encapsulated, because language is finite and God is infinite. So you couldn't encapsulate something infinite within something finite. So the Arabic Quran comes to us, it appears to the Prophet, and he expresses it. Now, in that sense, there was a dynamism to it. And they did allow, as Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i said, that they did allow there was a permissibility for the companions to substitute certain words with other similar words. Now, where they may disagree is, was this substitution something inherently part of the Quran, or was it just a rukhsa, a dispensation given to them to make life easy for them? I would argue it was inherently a qualitative nature of the Quran. It was a qualitative aspect. There was a dynamism within the Quran that it allowed that. None of these changes that they speak of, these different words that are used, change the meaning of the Quran. They may change nuances, but they don't change the absolute meaning. And I was giving an example. I know, look, these examples aren't necessarily good, but just an approximation of how you have isotopes within the structures within chemistry. You have different kind of structures, the way you'll have, for example, a carbon 12, carbon 13, carbon 14. These are all still carbon, but it's just that the way the structures work, some will end up always being more stable. Now, I feel it was the same thing with the Quran, that when people were allowed, the nature of the Quran did allow this dynamism, that people could substitute certain words, but the very nature was that some of these would always be more stable. Okay, the way you have those isotopes, now you would like carbon 12, carbon 13, carbon, you have uranium, whether it'll be 235 or something else, some will always be more stable, and some of these readings would have always just dominated because the nature that they had was much more stable. Now, some people have argued that's a mathematical nature that we may not perceptibly see, but it is maybe subconsciously we recognize these kind of patterns. So fair enough. I'm open to that. That makes sense as well. But to me, the Quran was dynamic. This is not something that's, oh my God, Muslims have suffered here. They haven't. This is always the nature of the Quran. And we've just had a misunderstanding in the last 100-200 years that's been massively pushed. But that's all, yeah. So I hope that clarifies that as well. Does God necessarily need being to be God? Elijah asks. Shukran. Doing it with the super chat. No, God doesn't need being, but he chooses. God is the ground of being from which beings emerge. Mahin Mirza asks, does Dr. Edip Yüksel believe praying 5 times a day? I think he accepts it, but he doesn't feel that was the primary objective, but he does accept it. People accuse me of being a munkir al-hadith, of rejecting hadith. You need to watch my dialogue with Dr. Edip. That is somebody who truly rejects hadith. And you can see the difference. People say, oh, Mufti rejects hadith, is a hadith rejector. I'm not a hadith rejector. And you have to put me side by side and see. Now, I feel that Dr. Edip, it was an amazing dialogue, amazing conversation we had. However, I do feel that, I don't buy the whole rejecting all hadith. I feel it's the opposite extreme of, you have hadith dogmatists like Salafis, hardcore Salafis and Madkhalis, and how this attitude of hadith, once we have a hadith, nothing else can come in our way, and it doesn't matter if it makes no sense. We should go around killing geckos and killing lizards because it's somehow a reward for us from God, and we're going to get to Jannah by killing lizards, and this kind of absurdities. And then I feel this is the opposite extreme. No hadith ever. It doesn't matter what the hadith says. We will never look at a hadith. I feel that, look, but hadith too, the sunnah, or even the sunnah in essence, I feel that, look, that's we know that many hadith have come down, that they do seem to reflect a reality. So I just feel that, that's not, that doesn't really add up either. So I don't accept that either. Claire saying he really took over, Mufti, he bullied you. No. Look, I is senior to me in age, senior in having dedicated his life to Islam, even though we disagree. He's a Quran only person, but he still dedicated decades of his life to Islam. And it's not, I disagree with this calling people deviants, calling people they should be like this, they should be, look, that's their view. It's not my view. I disagree with it. I don't feel it's correct in my understanding, but I don't feel it's my job or anybody's job to be outcasting people from Islam. Now, I feel he had some strange, but anybody who comes on my show, I did present certain, how would you answer this? How would you answer that? But it's not about, what I'm not trying to do on Mindtrap is call people on and then have a debate with them. See, it's not my style, because I can do that, but that would just turn into an argument then, wouldn't it? Because not everybody likes being challenged. So, I don't mind being challenged, but some people, they can react impulsively, you see. So that's not my purpose. My purpose is to probe a little, to present counter arguments, but to let them talk. Let people listen to what they have to say, and I will kind of probe it as well. But it's not an interrogation. That's not what it's about. There will be some cross-examination along the way. Yeah. So, no, I know you were joking, Claire, but I know some people may genuinely have this question. Somebody said he wiped the floor with you. You think so? Okay, fair enough. If that's how you feel. I don't feel he did. I don't feel it was a debate anyway. He did ask about, look, you can't. And I agree with many of. You see, this was my thing. I agree with a lot of the problems, the symptoms, but I just don't agree with the solution. See, like he's saying the age of Aisha and so on, and I agree with these things, but I don't feel the solution is to say all hadith are BS. That's not the solution, because I feel that, look, we can see there was a living tradition that did preserve things. How do we know anything? I did say to him, how do we know anything about the Prophet? How do we even know that the Prophet moved to Medina, which was Yathrib? We only know this through the living tradition. It's not in the Quran. It doesn't mention it in the Quran. Like, to reject the living tradition, to reject the Sunnah like this, it doesn't, like, what's the purpose? I don't see that purpose to it. Because anything we actually know about early Islam is only what has been passed down to us by narrations. Yeah. Right, so... and the slavery thing didn't really make sense. He said slavery is outlawed in the Quran. I felt that was a huge stretch. I did say to him as well that he asked me, the word Rabb can never be accepted. I did say to him, well, how would you answer about Yusuf alayhi salam, saying, about وَأَمَّا أَحَدُكُمَا فَيَسْقِي رَبَّهُ خَمْرًا. And then he did think about that, and he said, well, he even says, okay, that's a good one. But then he says, look, okay, but that's because they believed in pagan gods. But it's evident that in that context, the person was about giving his master, not his pagan master, but his actual master, alcohol to drink. Like his kind of... So, yeah, I felt that was too much of a stretch. This whole... I feel it's trying to wash everything down. Like, I feel, look, let's be real. The Sahaba, the Prophet's lifetime was a warrior lifestyle they lived. Like, we have to... They lived in very brutal circumstances. It wasn't... And yet, you see, what's amazing is the Prophet taught exemplary compassion. Despite being from an atmosphere that was very brutal and a warrior lifestyle. You see, so there's no point pretend. You see, this is why I don't pretend that they weren't these kind of hippies that were just walking around all lovey-dovey. They weren't. I mean, and I feel sometimes if we try to present that the Prophet's lifestyle was all wishy-washy and hippie and hey, it's all, everybody's on oxytocin. It's like it's all. It wasn't like that. They were warriors. I mean, they was like the whole atmosphere, the greater Arabia was like lived off a raiding lifestyle, so yeah, so I feel that's an interesting point. But yeah, but that was I really loved the discussion. Even afterwards, Dr. Etip did say to me that, look, I think I I cut you off on too many things I shouldn't have. And he said to me, you should have stopped me. You should have cut me off. And I said, look, I said to him, look, these were my actual words. I said to him, you're my senior. Yeah, don't worry about it. It's all good. This is not the purpose of these kind of dialogues. It's about bringing a different voice to the platform and saying, well, have a look. Agree, disagree. I disagree with many of the things about... I feel the number 19 thing is a bit overdone. And Rashad Khalifa, I don't really agree with some of it. Obviously, him saying some verses in the Quran too were kind of interpolated and they weren't from the Quran, from Surah Tawbah. I feel is a huge stretch. But yeah, but it was a fascinating conversation. Do check that if you have a chance. Omar says, what is the challenge of the Quran? Is there any parameters? Was it only for people of the time? Yeah, I feel that it was more for the people of the time, in all honesty. Yeah. So, alright. So, what is going on, people? Right now, I did say, bloody hell, this is going on. Right, let's talk a little about this. People had asked me about Maulana Jalali, Ashraf Jalali, and this whole thing going on in Pakistan right now. It's become a huge fitna. this thing about him critiquing Fatima radiallahu anha's decision. Now, in all fairness, I think from what and I haven't done a huge amount of reading on it. Mahin Mirza, just on a side note, she's asked that she hopes I can have Khalil Andani on my podcast. I'm aiming to have Professor Khalil Andani on for this Friday coming up, inshallah. So I am already in conversation with been WhatsApping all last week. We were hoping to go on yesterday, Sunday, but our timings just couldn't meet. So we're looking for maybe this Friday if we can, and we're going to speak about modes of revelation. Right, so so this Maulana Ashraf Jalali, to be fair, I think he wasn't really trying to criticize Fatima radiallahu anha. He was just trying to discuss the context of what was going on, and he said, I think he said that, well, she was mistaken in the Fadak issue. But I think he does say that it's an ijtihadi mistake. And then it's become a huge thing, and people have said, and there's been like pushback both ways, and now Maulana Saeed Asad has kind of set out a debate challenge that we will debate you. So this is the, and before you know it, it turns into one of these these things. So they've got this whole right going on, these people fighting at it. But and I think I watched this part of his video where he responds by saying, Maulana Jalali responds by saying, look, I never even said that, and I was saying it in this context. And yeah, I think this is a very passionate topic in places like Pakistan. And it's a very sensitive topic to do with Fatima radiallahu anha. I have already spoken on it. I don't really need to go into that detail. I've got a video on Fadak. You can watch my clip, my views. I do feel that, yes, I do agree that, look, that I feel that both narratives have some holes in them. It's not the Sunni narrative and the Shia narrative both have holes. When we look at it from her claim, from Fatima radiallahu anha's claim of inheritance, I feel she was correct. But I feel that the issue of fate, the issue of land or any property that is that is acclaimed by military conquests or things like this, expeditions in the lifetime of the Prophet, wouldn't have been the Prophet's personal property. It would have been something which was part and parcel of the Islam kind of sphere. But then this narrative has holes in it from the aspect of the response. So in that angle, I would agree that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was correct. But then the response he gave about the inheritance hadith, I would feel doesn't really make much sense. So it's like, it's all... And I think these are problems really, because, these sects have become institutionalized, and they've, there's people are just now like so tunnel vision, and Sunnis and Shia, there isn't really a balanced mind out there, unfortunately. And I feel when it comes to Fatima radiallahu anha, truth be told, I do think that, some of the Sunni concepts, some of the Sunni ulama haven't really been fair to her. Just generally as a person, I do accept that. And I can see, I think it was not even obviously after the Prophet has passed away, I don't think it was out of any malice towards her. I don't accept that it was out of any malice. But I feel that, yeah, she did get kind of like, she was thrown to the wayside, basically. But it wasn't, I think it was more due to the events that were taking place. It wasn't that they had, let's target Fatima radiallahu anha. I don't think they would have ever done that. I do feel that they loved Fatima because she was the daughter of the Prophet at the end of the day. But naturally, to them, obviously, it's not like she was going to have that utmost priority, or yeah, and I feel she was kind of sidelined, and thereby, you know, she was hurt, and I recognize that in part of the Sunni tradition. But and I feel that people were a bit harsh in later on justifying these things. So it's not really right either, the way they justified it. And yeah, but I don't feel that, just to be very clear, that Abu Bakr or Umar radiallahu anhum, or these people ever had malice. I don't feel that they hated Fatima. That is a huge misrepresentation. But I accept that they, or maybe Abu Bakr inadvertently hurt her, which obviously is a very difficult topic. I do recognize that. But I think that, look, in time to come later on, I don't think he would have ever wanted to have hurt her, but it got in the way of things, because he was obviously trying to stabilize the state, and I feel that her demand may have been overwhelming for him, because you have to remember, she asked a lot. She asked for, you know, the whole of all those allotments, which were huge. And so he may have felt that this would be too compromising to give this right now. So yeah, and it is an emotional topic, but I feel that afterwards the Sunni, and I say Sunni as a stretch, but some people were a bit cruel in describing, so Ibn Taymiyyah is a good example, really. You know, Ibn Taymiyyah is really kind of a bit very harsh-hearted and very kind of cruel in his words about Fatima radiallahu anha. And, you know, he describes her as, well, you know, in fact, in his Minhaj Sunnah, he says, like, that she was hurt by not receiving fadak, and people say, oh, their narrations, you know, they tell us that she was hurt. Well, what is she hurt about? You know, so she missed out on a bit of the dunya. What's the big deal? And you think, and then he quotes the verse of the Quran that, you know, لِكَيْ لَا تَأْسَوْا عَلَى مَا فَاتَكُمْ. You know, and, you know, so Allah does, so you shouldn't, basically, he's the verse of the Quran saying that you shouldn't kind of be so heart torn about what you miss out on in the world. And he says, well, you know, well, this verse teaches us this. So, and you think, what the hell is wrong with you? You know, at the end of the day, this, what, like, preaching to Fatima radiallahu anha, way out of his lane. And, you know, he has some very harsh words and things like this. He says, you know, that she, by asking to be buried at night, because when she was on her deathbed, she said, bury me at night, and, like, I'm not interested in people coming to my funeral. He says, well, this was basically a kind of like a sin, which he says, but hopefully it's a forgiven one, which, because she's basically breaking up the jama'ah of the Muslims. You think, yaar, abhe kaun hai be tu? You know, this Ibn Taymiyyah, this is the problem with, so these people were they were out of their league, they were speaking out of tone, and I think this is the problem with, and, you know, his student as well, Ibn Kathir, and obviously influenced by him. You know, he says about Fatima that, you know, he says, inna imra'atun min al-bashar. You know, she's just a woman from humans. وَلَيْسَتْ بِرَاجِيَةِ الْعِسْمَةِ. You know, what is she can't be hopeful of having infallibility. Yo, Ibn Kathir. You know, this is, at the end of the day, she is the daughter of the Prophet. And, you know, it's not that we don't know that she's not infallible. Obviously, I don't believe she was infallible, but there's an adab, there's an etiquette. And this is why Imam Malik was very kind of about, you know, the maqam of Fatima, he always treated it as an exclusive maqam. So yeah, these things, I feel that some of the, I say Sunni, although today more loved by the Salafis, some of these scholars had a very harsh stance against Fatima, and I feel that they definitely wronged her in the words they used. But then, you know, the Shia sometimes overdo it in their thing. Not sometimes, they overdo it as well, and you have to kind of, this is another problem. So they sometimes misquote, and they sometimes, so you have to kind of be, because I watched a clip of Kamal Haydari, Sheikh Kamal Haydari, who I like. He's a Shia scholar, he's very well versed and intelligent, and he went on quoting Ibn Taymiyyah and some of the things. And some of the things he's correct, but some of them he's misquoting. Like, let's be fair. Like, he says, look what Ibn Taymiyyah says about Fatima. He says that there's a lot of qawadih, about a lot of, like, you know, there's a lot of faults that have been transmitted about her. And then he says, وَبَعْضُهَا كِذْب, and some of them are a lie, and some of them, even if they're true, like he says that, you know, but he says that maybe they had a ta'wil about Fatima and other companions. Now he says ba'duha kidhb, some of them are a lie. Not that some of them are a lie, meaning some of them are that Fatima used to lie. You think, acha. You know, and you're an Arab. Yaar, humka wo samjhe ka? Come on, let's be honest, that's not what he's saying though. Although I agree in condemning him as well. But you see, the problem is when you start twisting their words, then your arguments won't be, nobody can trust you either. Because in this statement, Ibn Taymiyyah wasn't saying that. What he was saying is some of the faults that have been transmitted are lies. And some of them may be true, but maybe they had a ta'wil, they had an interpretation. Now, I'm with you in I condemn what Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Kathir said. I'm with you, but I also against you for misinterpreting and for misleading people. Like, because when you also start twisting words, that's wrong as well. And so this is the problem. But yeah, I mean, I just said some words, but I hope that, you know, may Allah make things easy. Ameen. But it's really, we need bridges amongst these communities. But yeah, but you know what's interesting as well? The Shia do bring this. Right, so that, you know, they usually often bring about Muawiyah radiallahu anh and things like this, but he never really, they don't show any issues ever. Obviously he wasn't in Medina, but there were never, to be fair, there were never these kind of malice issues anyway between the companions, but there was never an issue between Fatima and Muawiyah radiallahu anh. Just on a side note. Right, so cool, let's get back to what's right. Somebody said, ha, Mufti is not interested. I'm very interested. Get engineer on Mindtrap. I don't think he'd ever want to come on Mindtrap. Somebody said, Mufti, can you Wikipedia something? Right, okay, I will, but do you want me to do it right now? Right, guys, we're gonna have to wrap up this soon, right? So let's quickly take a look at this. So there was a bit of a there was a beef, people, masala segment, right? So there was some beef that went on between Danny Boy and Johnny Boy. What's the Hey Julie, Johnny ka dil tum pe aaya, Julie. Wasn't it Johnny, or what was it? It's Johnny, wasn't it? Mithun in his old film. I'm sure that was the quote. So you got Johnny Boy and Danny Boy, and they had a bit of beef going on. So what this was about is a clip. If I can get that clip, un momento. Let me just see. Where have I put it, man? Right, so I feel this is it. Is this it?
These are the things that I'm criticizing the compassionate imams for, right?
Okay, Dan, I mean,
Apparently Yasir Qadhi has
he then
said
obviously
this.
later clarified in an interview with Muhammad Hijab, where he said that, look, what I meant by this, you have to appreciate the audience I was speaking and the context I was speaking in, but also to do with that, there are some verses of the Quran, as some classical scholars have also used the term mushkil when it comes to certain verses at a particular time, to basically explain that, to
so
now
Yasir
explain
Qadhi
these
said
verses in its application in today's time does pose a problem, not that the verses themselves are a problem. So this was not an explanation. Okay, fine. He wants to explain problematic as mushkil. Fine, but that's actually not a good explanation, because mushkil, when it's used in the classical tradition, means ambiguous. These are texts that are ambiguous with reference to each other. No one said that, okay, this text is problematic in that sense, because it doesn't conform with what we think in terms of our aql, what science proves according to aql. No, and it's very ironic that someone like Yasir Qadhi would appeal to this type of reasoning, because his dissertation and his main focus at Yale was the work of Ibn Taymiyyah in a specific work, Dar al-Ta'arud, al-Naql wal.
Right, so that's Danny Boy saying, look, mushkil, how Yasir Qadhi was saying that. I haven't heard that clip, by the way, by Yasir Qadhi, but he's problematizing some verses of the Quran, saying that they are problematic in this day and age or something. So I think later on, as Danny Boy has said, that he said that they were mushkil. So he says, well, mushkil means ambiguous, mushkil. So this triggered a whole debate, because then, and he's really gunning for yaqeen. Now the backstory is that Danny Boy used to be the head of research at Yaqeen Institute. That was his job. But then he got sacked. Right? Because those of you that don't know, Danny Boy's views are are basically, intellectually, he is a twin of Mullah Umar of the Taliban, because his views are horrific when it comes to his views are like absolutely like not from this dimension. So he's got sacked, and who's replaced him? Johnny Boy. Jonathan Brown. Johnny, Jonathan. Taram pam pam pam. So he's replaced him. So now the beef is going back, forth. So he says, well, these Yaqeen people are sellouts. And in this interview of his, this is a very long lecture he did with the other extremist, Dili, right? So two extremists, dos pendejos. Right, that's what they should call it. But anyway, so he speaks about Yaqeen are a sellout, and they liaise with, they take government money, and they the CVE, and what they do is they promote an LGBTQ agenda, and he quotes Linda Sarsour and Dalia Mujahid and these kind of people in saying that this is who they're promoting, and they now are associated with Yaqeen, and he has a proper rant about Yaqeen. And then amidst that, this mushkil thing comes up. So now that was round one. Now round two, and in that corner we have Jonathan. Jonathan Brown, he comes back at him, but he comes at him for the word. He says, wow, Daniel Haqiqat Jew doesn't know basic Arabic scholarly terms. He says mushkil means ambiguous. It does not mean ambiguous. No. It means problematic or requiring explanation or reconciliation. Hit the books, Daniel Haqiqat Jew. I did the work. Now it's your turn. And there you can see Sana Saeed has jumped in as well. Tu na reh jaya. She's like, let me get my bit in there as well. So he's jumped back. And, now, and then you get some people, they jump back at Johnny Boy. They say you've got Masood Vahdi, who says, well, can mushkil hold rather? Can mushkil hold ambiguous? There you've got another quote there by somebody called Zafar saying, Daniel, Jonathan is avoiding the main critique and he's just picking on these little side bits. So, I mean, what is going on here? What is going on, people? Oh my God! You see, now, to be fair, the mushkil could mean both ways. I mean, mushkil is sometimes used historically to be technically used to mean something that may appear ambiguous, but ambiguous in the sense that they're hoping to reconcile it. So they've got a point, both have. Sometimes it is used for something that is indeterminable, like it cannot be. So sometimes they used to call the hermaphrodite who has both genders khuntha mushkil, the one that was you couldn't determine at all. So it has been used in that sense as a technical, like they did used to say mushkilul hadith or mushkilul Quran. That has been a terminology. But to be fair as well, when Jonathan Brown was coming at it, that, he has a point as well, that when Yasir Qadi was using it, I doubt it he was using it in accordance with the terminology of Imam al-Shafi'i or those people. He was just using it as a common Arabic term to mean problematic. It's mushkil. That mushkil. It's like... But then, this whole... Obviously, the attack back against him because of what he's saying. Now, to be fair, Jonathan Brown does have an issue with this, that he does sometimes get very petty with little things. Like, I remember when I had the Bukhari Gate thing, and instead of speaking about the Bukhari Gate, he made a whole post about me saying, oh, I heard his audio talk and he mentions Bunani. He goes, first of all, it's not Bunani, it's Banani. So let me correct you on the Arabic. Think, acha. Oh, sorry, bhaiya. This is the...
problematic.
No. This is the Arabic...
ما في إقامة كل شيء ما في ودي سجن أنت ما في أنا خوف شرطة
ما في أنا خوف شرطة ما في أنا خوف شرطة أيوه دغشنتنا منا. This is ما في أنا خوف شرطة. So he is trying to correct me. I was like, Puttar, no. This is, no. So I had to then take a photograph from the book, put it on social media to show that actually it is Bunani, the scholar I'm quoting. So next time, before you try to why don't you just deal with the actual issue? So what's happened is, instead of dealing with Haqiqat Jew, he's gone for this Arabic point, and then he's getting slammed. Well, actually, it can mean ambiguous as well. So actually, your Arabic isn't all that. And he's correcting, Danny Y, and he's saying, well, you don't know Arabic, and wo keh rahe yaar, you don't know Arabic, and ho ka raha hai baba. And Daniel Haqiqat Jew was like, look,
I don't have the ijaza, the formal degree or certificate. I haven't graduated from alim program. But that doesn't mean that I am not learned or I haven't studied. I haven't studied fiqh or usul al-fiqh or Arabic. In fact, I have studied these things for many years. I'm still studying these things in Arabic and so forth. So that's, first of all, I feel is a big distraction from the actual issue to bring up someone's credentials. Because if
why
I were
are you
to
asking me
argue
about Islamic
against
stuff?
someone
I'm
that
not
they are violating
commenting
some
about
issue
Islamic
within
stuff.
usul al-fiqh or some mas'ala within fiqh or aqidah.
He's saying about, if I was commenting about Islamic stuff, then you could ask, but I'm not. Abe chache, what do you think you're talking about? You're saying these people are misrepresenting Islam. Obviously, people are going to ask you, what are your qualifications about Islam? Right? Oh no, this is what he's basically. Wait. That's what Danny Boy is trying to do. He's trying to. He's like, watch this leap. I got this, people. I got this. I got this, people. I got this. Watch this. So this one big problem, Oh no.
Problematic as mushkil.
Mushkil.
Fine, but that's actually not a good explanation.
Badi mushkil hai baba, badi mushkil. This is the problem. Mushkil. Badi mushkil hai baba, badi mushkil. So these people, both of these people, honestly, this is the problem with all of this. Daniel Haqiqat Jew on one side, Yasser Qadi on another side. In this Royal Rumble, then you've got Jonathan Brown on another side, who sometimes I don't understand, I don't understand the angles these people come from, why they present such kind of strangely dogmatic views. And then it's just, everybody just So that's what's going to happen, isn't it? And then just correcting each other's Arabic. Chacho. Correcting each other's Arabic.
Problematic
No.
as mush.
ما في جواز انا ماضي انت جواز ما في اقامه كل شيء ما في ودي سجن انت ما في انا خوف شرطه ما في انا خوف جدا ولا
ما في أنا خوف شرطة. Wah. So this is the issue with all this kind of nonsense. But I had to cover it. I thought, why not, people? You know what? Let's I think we've got to wrap these things up. Were there any other interesting questions before we shoot? It's been quite a right, here was a right, here's Inaya saying, and then there is you, dashing balanced Mufti. Wow. Gio. Right, see, this is the people, so this is all your love is dearly appreciated. Right, if there's any rapid round questions, we'll take them, but otherwise, right, so people are asking, marriage, this reminds me, there was a marriage question. This one, low. Right, so somebody had asked a question. They said, look, what's the craziest pagal person you had to debunk? Oh, like these people. A lot of these guys are of a similar ilk, by the way. Their kind of mindset is similar. Their views are maybe different, but their weird dogmatism is very similar in its mindset. So, yeah. Anyway, there was a question, people, a problem. I was asked by someone, and I didn't really, somebody asked a question. They said, look, how do I find out I'm about to get married? This was a woman, female, male to male. Right, so they asked, I'm about to get married. How do I ascertain? How does one must ascertain that my husband-to-be is not impotent? How do I ascertain this? problem hai yaar, bahut badi samasya hai. So I was like, well, why would you think this is going to be the problem? So they said, well, apparently I think this woman had maybe been in a relationship before, as in a marriage before that didn't work, but one of the main reasons was impotence. So guys, this big problem, because what could you, and then she's under the impression if I just ask, they're probably going to lie and say no problem. So you think, well, right, so what is the solution? Yaar, sab milke, let's all get together, juntos, and let's try and figure out a solution. All hands on board here. Or is it on deck? What could one possibly say? I was like, oof, the problems of ishq. I was like, well, I'm sure there's other ways of finding out, but wahan jata kaun hai? You know, that one, not, oh, this, yeah, where's that? There was a poem, actually. I didn't read that out today. Let me just, a famous one of Ahmad Faraz Sahib. He says, रफ़ाक़तों में पशेमानियाँ तो होती हैं कि दोस्तों से भी नादानियाँ तो होती हैं. Wow, 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 wow. So, but this is actually a very epic poem of his, that he says, बस इस सबब से कि तुझ पे बहुत भरोसा था, गिले ना हों भी तो हैरानियाँ तो होती हैं. उदासियों का सबब क्या कहें बजुज इसके. बजुज means except. बजुज इसके ये जिंदगी है, परेशानियां तो होती हैं. वाह 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 वाह. फराज भूल चुका है तेरे फिराक के दुख, के शायरों में तन आसानियां तो होती हैं. तन आसानियां is comfort, but this ये जिंदगी है, परेशानियां तो होती हैं. So I was a bit baffled. What kind of advice can I give? I was like, well, I don't know. This is a tricky one. It's ishq muamala, you know, ishq. But I don't know, people. Somebody said, tell her to wear yoga pants and then go and see him. You know, that reminds me, this ishq, you know, you guys may have heard of a famous Arabic linguist of the past. He's very involved in adabiyat and poetry, and his name was Al-Asma'i. So Al-Asma'i, he says, one day I was walking along and I saw this rock, and somebody had etched into it a poem, and the person had written, wow, we're getting late, guys, but chalo, I'll do this and then we'll wrap it up. He had written in the poem, he said, I mean, etched onto the rock. He said, أيا معشر العشاق بالله خبروا إذا حل عشق بالفتى ما يصنع. Allah, Allah, Allah. He said, oh, lovers. Yaar, lover. He says, by Allah, you have to tell me, what does a guy do if love has overcome him? Allah. Ishkavina. So Asma'i says, you know what? I said, I wrote underneath it a response. You know, like comments in that day and age. Today's commenting, he's commenting on the rock. So he says, I etched under it. I wrote, يواري هواه ثم يكتم سره ويخشع في كل الأمور ويخضع. He says he has to play his desires. He has to kind of do politics with them. He has to hide this secret. And he has to kind of keep a low profile and be very fearful. So he says, I came back the next day and I saw a response. This texting going on, people, in real time. So the person had written underneath it. Let me just open this one moment. See my Facebook, gente. So the person had written underneath it. He said, كيف يواري والهوى قاتل الفتى. That how can he hide it? And this passion is killing him. وفي كل يوم قلبه يتقطع. Allah, Allah. And every day my heart is tearing up, people. Oof, the passion. So Asma'i then says, I responded. Once again, comment. He writes, he says, I wrote, he says, إذا لم يجد he says إذا لم يجد المرء no إذا لم يجد صبرا لكتمان سره فليس له شيء سوى الموت ينفع. He says that if he can't find any patience to hold on, if this is that overwhelming, then the only thing left for him is death. He just kills him off. He goes that then you might as well just die. There's nothing left for you. So he says, I came back the next day and there's a reply. So the reply was, سمعنا وأطعنا ومتنا فبلغوا سلامي إلى من كان في الوصل يمنع. Allah, Allah, Allah. He says that, you know what? We hear and we obey. And we are now dead. I don't know how he carried on writing after saying we are dead. He says, but convey my message to the one who has prevented, as in her, or in the, this is a he, so it's a her, who didn't let me connect with her. Allah, Allah, Allah. Hani'an, he has another line with it. He says, Hani'an li arbabir na'imi na'imuhumu walil ashikil miskini ma yatajarra'u. Allah, Allah. He says, the people of life, they are living life. But the ashikul miskin, look at what he suffers. So people, that I was reminded of that because of this poor lady's predicament. This predicament, right, that she found herself in. I really did not know what to kind of advise, because I was like, well, this one big problem, you know. So it goes to show sometimes the problems people are having. This can be a problem. I'm sure there must be a pill out there that can resolve a lot of problems, huh? If only there was, huh? Right, people, you know what? Let's wrap this up. It's been awesome. You guys have been awesome, as always, right? I have to say, you guys do hack it out, even though it's got very late. As always, take very good care of yourselves. Remember me in your kind du'as. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, then you know what? May that predicament befall you. Right, subscribe to my channel, people. Oh, spread the love. Right, so do click the notification icon. If you do, with the mind trap, I'm aiming to be on tomorrow night. I should have a guest from America, Sheikh Omar Baloch, and I'm hoping to discuss a few things. America, Muslims. He has a background in psychology as well, so we'll take a look at that, and also an interesting take on Dhul Qarnayn. So we'll take a little look at that as well. Hopefully that should be going on tomorrow, a little later on in the week. Dr. Khalid Andani on the modes of revelation. So do keep tuned, people. Watch this space as always, right? Any issues, reach out to me. Instagram is a good place because it's easy. I can sometimes just send voice note responses and stuff like that. But cool. Take care. Much love. as always, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, people. Over and out. I'm putting up the final page. Do like and subscribe.